everyone, welcome to another episode of the QubicaAMF Tech Tip Podcast. This is a weekly podcast where we take you on a journey through the fascinating world of bowling technology and beyond. I am your host, Orly, and as always, I have a very knowledgeable guest on with me today. We have Travis Huston. Travis, welcome back to the show. How are you doing today?
Good, Orly. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. So, Travis, this time around, sometimes I kind of have a subject. Sometimes you guys have a subject. I asked you this week, I said, hey, Travis, can you come on the show? And you mentioned that you'd want to talk about staff setup. Can you let us know a little bit more about what staff setup is?
Yeah, so staff setup is where you basically onboard your employees into Conqueror. And this is the part where you select the profile that you want for them. Based on the permissions and the access that you want your staff members to have. And this is where you create either a password or, enable their fingerprint for their use in Conqueror.
Okay. And not to go down the road here, and I know maybe you'll get into this, and we probably don't, people probably don't want to talk about this at times, but, adding a new staff member is something it's going to happen, obviously, but also maybe removing a staff member. Is that something you're going to also be able to tell them about?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I will let you get right into it and explain what you need to explain. All right, Travis?
Okay, very good. So logging into Conqueror, you can go to, we're going to start actually in user profile setup. We're going to go to setup, general, and user profile setup. So right here, this is our starting point where we would create a user profile that we would assign to an employee to give them specific rights that they needed for Conqueror.
Okay.
And there are various different rights. You can see the tabs here: operate, shifts, prices, technical, management, and reservations. And with each one of these allow your staff members to access these certain modules or perform these certain actions within Conqueror. And so we can create a new one by hitting new down in the bottom left, and then we can also save those. So I'm not going to dive too much into all of the checkboxes involved with profile setup because there is a lot. And then if we exit out of that, the thing I really want to discuss today is staff setup. So this is onboarding a new employee. Let's say we already have a profile established for your, let's say it's a lane attendant. Lane attendants, we want to give them certain access to certain counter functions, but not everything. Maybe it's just opening, closing lanes and general functions. So in here, after we've created our profiles, to create a new employee, we would go new in the bottom right hand corner. We would create a username based on this is the username that would show up. And next is the user's full name, which we usually do, first and last name there. And then the display name. So this is what's going to display in Conqueror every time you log in for the display name. Where it says default profile, this is where you then assign what profile you want to have for your employees. And so selecting their default profile, this is where we would select the lane attendant if it was available. We would hit save there, and then we would create that employee. Down in the left bottom, you can see password and you can see link. If we go to password, this is where we can either create a password, and I always try to recommend, keep it short, keep it simple, keep it something you can always remember for your employees, because, this is you logging in and out of Conqueror depending on, how many times you have to get in, based on repetition. And then also in change password, this is where you can add your fingerprint. So if you have the digital persona or any other branded fingerprint reader, this is where you would be able to add a fingerprint for an employee. The other way that you can also sign in as an employee is FBT link. So this is going to allow you to create a profile in FBT and essentially swipe in every time you want to log in to Conqueror. So that's basically onboarding an employee, getting them set, and then the thing that I always do is make sure that we test it, make sure that it works when they log in. So,
Okay. Travis,
yeah,
sorry not to cut you off. Is there anything, and I know every center is different, every manager is going to be different. Is there anything, if somebody's new to this, that you recommend that they don't give access to everybody? Or, you know what I mean? Is there any tips there maybe on something, make sure that you don't give access to this, or this is kind of overlooked? I mean, or is it just kind of up to each center?
it's really on each center's discretion.
Okay.
I've trained at some centers where, some of them are family owned and they don't want profiles at all, and every employee has all access. There are other centers where they want to be able to restrict what employees can and cannot do in the system. And
Okay.
so, some things that, you want to differentiate between staff members and maybe admin professionals. I guess that's the biggest line, right, that we can make. And maybe admin professionals have access to change major settings. They have access to print and view reports, the actual income that your center generates. Those are really all defined based on the center's preferences.
Okay.
And they're very flexible. That's the nice thing about Conqueror is you can give access to and limit access to basically any profile and in any shape or form.
All right, so that was adding someone. And like I said, sometimes we don't want to talk about somebody having to leave. I mean, maybe they're just leaving on their own, but maybe there's a time where you have to, maybe somebody just didn't work out, but now we want to remove someone. How would they do that?
Yeah, so one of the things around removing somebody is that as long as they are attached to a receipt or shift that they were a part of in Conqueror, I'll give you an example. Let's say a center wants to hang on to their receipts and their shifts that they ran for a full 365 days for the year. That's pretty extensive, but let's just say we wanted to keep receipts and shifts for a full year. For that year, the person in Conqueror can't be removed yet. And so what I do is I create a terminated profile. And so in the profile setup, this is where you basically uncheck every box and then you create a terminated profile. So then instead of, saying, well, I can't delete him yet, I'll just wait, you can at least assign a terminated profile to them. So if, they've got a coworker who's still a friend or something, they can't jump behind the desk and log in or, something crazy like that.
Yeah, no.
Basically, this allows you to limit the access or remove access completely for people that have either left or been asked to leave. So.
All right. So now we know, adding a new staff member, removing a staff member. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover on this subject?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Like I said, the user profiles are very flexible in how you can give or remove access for certain individuals. And in my experience, we test that, right? Mm-hmm. So if we're running a shift and we find that somebody is, not able to get something that they need to get to just for an operation standpoint, then, maybe that's something we need to enable for them. So yeah, basically just testing with trial and error and seeing what works best for our employees.
Well, Travis, as always, I appreciate your time. And, every time you come on the show, you seem to bring a lot of listeners. So that's always good. I don't know if it's the knowledge or you have a lot of friends, but whatever it is, it's always good. Well, Travis, again, thank you for coming on the show, and we will definitely have you back soon.
All right. Sounds good, Orly. Thank you.
You're welcome. And listeners, if you're new to the show, make sure you're going back and checking out past episodes where we have, a bunch of different guests coming on, and they're sharing just a bunch of knowledge that is very helpful. With that being said, we will talk to everyone soon. Everyone have a great day.